I've had the Canon M50 for a long time now, and I've learned a lot since the last video that I made about it. Today I'm going to have a full rundown on this camera and all of the features that I found most useful. To begin, this camera is very small, can easily fit in a bag, and is very travel friendly. I also noticed that the handle on the side of the camera is a very good size and really helps to handle the camera. This size also helps with buying tripods because you do not need a massive tripod. As you can see here, I have a very small little tripod on here. The size of this camera also allows you to mount to places where other cameras can't be mounted, only cameras like GoPros. Now, if we were to move over to the image of this camera, it spits out a really good image for a camera its size and price. It has a 24.1 megapixel APS-C size sensor and shoots 4K 24, which has some downsides. I'll get to that later. It can also do 120 frames per second at 720p. I usually stick to 1080p at 24 frames per second because it looks the best. This camera also demonstrates Canon's improved dual pixel autofocus and eye detection autofocus. The camera also has the option to do vertical photo and video for content creation. I usually stick to around under 1600 when it comes to ISO. Some other features that this camera includes is an amazing 3-inch touchscreen. The camera also has the option to use a beginner menu, which allows beginners to easily operate the camera. But the traditional Canon menu is pretty easy to understand if you spend about 5 minutes looking through it. This camera has an EFM mount on it, which limits you to very few lenses. But if you're willing to spend another $40, you can get an adapter so that you can put EF lenses on it. This opens up doors to about hundreds or maybe even thousands of lenses that you could put onto this camera. This camera is very interesting to some people, but it also has its weaknesses. When you shoot in 4K, there's a tremendous crop and the autofocus is basically unusable. And if you are using 4K so you're able to crop in later, it's better just use 1080p and use a digital crop built into the camera. One thing that I really found annoying about this camera is that when you turn up the audio levels in the camera, it introduces a lot of noise into your audio. So usually when I record, I try to keep my audio levels as low as possible and then boost them up in post. Another downside that I have about this is that it doesn't have a USB-C charging port. Having this port will help with its battery life. Even though this camera does have a pretty good battery life of about 1.5 to 3 hours, depends on how much you use it, a USB-C charging port would help a lot with on-the-go shooting. Overall, this is a great beginner camera and can probably find itself being used professionally if it's used correctly. I recommend this camera to any beginners looking for a first camera or maybe even a semi-professional moving from an iPhone or a GoPro. As always, like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys later.